taxes are the biggest expense that you're ever going to have in your life, let me show you the coolest tax resource I've ever discovered. It's interactive, and I think that you're really going to like this. This is from the Tax Foundation. As you take a look at their page here, notice that you can take your cursor and kind of scroll across the United States, and then there on the right, it will give you the ranks parsed out by the tax type, 6 different ones, and pay particular attention to the overall rank at the top. If you blend all these different tax types together, that's what rank you get. And notice that for overall, there's a way that you can do that. If you scroll down just below the map here, and you click overall there on the leftmost column in that table, you'll see that, oh, the best 3 are Wyoming, South Dakota, and Alaska. That means that they have the lightest tax burden. All right, so looking back up on the map, the lighter colors have the lighter tax burden. The darker colors have the heavier tax burden. And you can see that with the overall rank, Wyoming, South Dakota, and Alaska have the lowest overall tax burden. And why might that be? Well, in general, those states tend to be resource rich. For example, in Alaska, the state leases a lot of their land to the big oil companies. Oil companies pay royalties to Alaska, and they have those royalties as income, and therefore they don't need as much tax income. Just an example of how resource-rich states can offset their taxes. Notice that Florida is 4th here. Florida is a really booming, great investor state. Here at Get Rich Education, we are fans of investing in most of Florida. It's a really good investor state. Low taxes are just one reason. And then on the overall rank, you can click on that and see what the worst states are. Well, some of the worst states are New Jersey, New York, Washington, D.C., and California. Why might those places have some of the worst taxes, the heaviest tax burdens? Well, they tend to have lots of infrastructure. There are a bunch of other reasons there too for them having higher taxes. They're generally on the coast. They're higher cost of living places. And this changes. So this source here, the Tax Foundation, they update this data every year. So states move around in the rankings. So this really might be something you want to bookmark. For example, New York was one of the rare states to raise taxes in 2021. So it fell even further in rank this year. Now let's scroll up a little bit and click on the property tax box here, and you'll notice this orange toned chart breaking it down just by property tax. Of course, that's of particular interest to us as real estate investors. Again, the lighter colors tend to have the lighter tax burden, and the lower taxes, the heavier colors having the higher tax burden. It is interactive as you can scroll across the states. Now understand something. When you own out-of-state rental property, most of the best deals are not inside the state that you live. A lot of them tend to be in the United States, Midwest and South. But let's just say that you live in Texas and you invest in rental property in Ohio. Ohio has a lot of good markets, Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati, etc. Well, notice that Texas has a good overall tax rank, but in Texas, you pay a high property tax. So again, if you live in Texas and you invest out of state and you own rental property in Ohio, Ohio has an overall poor rank, but you're making out because you're paying the 6th lowest property tax in Ohio, even though you live in Texas and you benefit from having generally lower taxes there. You pay property tax in the state that you invest in and that you own the property in, not the one that you live in if you're an out-of-state real estate investor. Now, importantly, housing values are taken into account. Of course, your average California home costs a heck of a lot more than your average West Virginia home. Well, this is taken into account. It is considered proportionally in these rankings. And if you scroll down, you can click on the property tax column and it will rank the states. You can see Indiana, New Mexico, and Idaho are the 3 states with the lowest property tax, the least property tax burden. And if you click on property taxes again, you can see what the worst ones are. The bottom three, you've got DC, Connecticut, and Vermont there. And now you might notice, let's go back up to the map here and hover the cursor over California. You can see California ranks, really awfully, really low in the ranks, meaning they have really high taxes for all 6 criteria here, except for property taxes, which you might find is a surprise because California has a reputation for having high taxes for everything. Well, you might know in California, the property tax is low because they base their property taxes on the purchase price years ago of the property. That's through something called Prop 13. Proposition 13 also puts caps on how much the property tax can increase over time. So though California has a heavy tax burden overall, their property tax burden is actually pretty light. So as you scroll around and you might see some anomaly like that, it might cause you to do some research or learn something. And of course, property tax varies city by city as well. It varies intra-state, but this is just the general average for the state. It's going to give you some idea. So a really good tax resource here with the Tax Foundation. They've been around since 1937. You can go directly to statetaxindex.org if you want to look at these particular tables like I have here. So I really hope you found this resource useful. Go ahead and put a like to give your approval if you learned something. If you think this is a cool resource, it's probably something you want to play around with. I'm Keith Weinhold. Thanks for being here, but you weren't here for me. You were here for you. Thanks so much for stopping by.